is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Just want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. It is imperative that you do that because guess what? We do not hide greatness on this show. So we expect you not to do the same. All right, now. We have a lot of good stuff on the show for today. And also another quick reminder that we are on Roku and Amazon. So if you want to watch us on the big screen, go ahead and check us out there as well. The Braves season is over, but did the way they lost to the Philadelphia Phillies overshadow the type of season that they had? We'll talk about that. And did Marcus Mariota fend the haters off for another week? And last but not least, and for the culture, Joe Simpson open his damn mouth again. We'll talk about all that, but first we talk about the last game, the elimination game. The Phillies defeat the Braves 8-3 on Saturday, and Charlie Morton got hit by a pitch, and then it was kind of all downhill from there. He lost a lot of his velocity. Once he came back out after that inning, he got hit, and it would just seem like the Braves just couldn't keep up with the Philadelphia Phillies from that point on.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, Jarvis, that I mentioned a while ago, and I think you mentioned as well. Sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, and last year the Braves were the buzzsaw. This year they got run up on by the buzzsaw. It happens. So I just
punched in the face.
It got punched in the face. Whatever you want, and that probably does describe what the heck happened to the Braves in that series. But on the same token, I told you I thought if they were going to win it, it was going to be in 5 because I felt like Philly was going to fight them to the bitter end. And I just think, like you said, unfortunately, the Braves couldn't even get to the 5th game. And really, yes, you can pin it on the 4th game. And like you said, Charlie Morton getting hit by pitcher, like we're going to talk a little bit later, the Ronald Acuna situation with the the infield home run, the in-park home run. But if you think about this, the whole series was actually just the Braves' Achilles heel or their kryptonite rearing its ugly head in a very restricted time frame. Because how many times have you and I gotten on this show and begged the bats to give the pitcher some run support? Over and over again, that's been our ask, if you will. Or how many times have we said, is that with the injuries taken into consideration, like the injury to Spencer Strider, right?
Right.
The situation where Charlie Morton was going up and down. Did the Braves have enough to get past Max Fried and Kyle Wright if you don't win both of those games? Well, you didn't. And that really kind of put the Braves on their heels to me from day one. The lack of run support that again came to rear its ugly head because you saw even more so, they're not a small ball team. So not having those home runs hit eventually cost them. And of course, Dansby was disastrous, going 2 for 16 in Austin, was atrocious, going 1 for 15. You cannot have those guys hit like that and expect to get out of this series with a team that was as hot as the Phillies.
Yeah, Austin Riley going 0-67. Yeah, not 0-4-67. That was his batting average. 0-67. Like, that is absolutely unacceptable when you're talking about the guy that contributed, throughout the season. He was, guy hitting 30-plus home runs and everything, and being in those early MVP conversations with guys like Paul Goldschmidt. So those are some of the things that you expect them to do to carry over into the postseason, right? Because that's what they've shown you. You got to believe it because it's 162 games. Like what they show you over that span, you should believe. Like that's not a short. That's not like a series. That's not necessarily a 5-game stretch or a 10-game stretch or something like that. This is over 162 games. This is what he's giving you. So you expecting them to do that same. Same thing with Dansby Swanson coming up to the plate with 2 outs and and a full count and how he just excelled throughout the entire season. We talked about it on the show. Like this is when we we expect Dansby to do Dansby type things, but he did not do that. And when you kind of sum it all up, it's just like you said, they weren't hitting home runs. They weren't doing that. Now, granted, they are talented enough to win in that small ball fashion, but the Braves doing what they're doing, and when they're humming in all those centers, they are knocking the ball out of the ballpark, and their pitchers are up there doing their thing. And we just did not see that in the series.
No, we did not at all. And like you said, it then makes you turn. We didn't want to turn this early, but it made us turn almost immediately to, well, what does that mean for next year? Because I mean, you literally have to look ahead to start thinking about what the team would look like come 2023.
I mean, and that starts with Dansby Swanson, right? Because I was just sitting there looking at his post game and kind of looking through the things that he was saying, and I think that the one thing that really stood out to me, I know this may seem small to some people, but you got to pay attention to people when they're in this moment, right? When they're emotional, because a lot of times they're gonna tell you exactly how they feel, and because they're in that moment and they're being emotional and they're just coming off a big loss and something like that. When Dansby Swanson, when he was asking about the young guys and how he kind of took them under their wing and everything, he said that he mentioned that he said he hoped those guys learned something from him. And I was like, why did he word it like that? Because it made, to me, it seemed like he was saying like, it was a struggle to understand what's ahead, because we already know the conversation is about to get ready to get started, and how they go, nobody really knows. We know both sides want to come back and want to be Atlanta Brave, but that was the same thing that happened last year with Freddie Freeman. Alex Anthopoulos, we want to be Freddie to be a Brave. Freddie Freeman, I want to be a Brave for life. Yeah. But we understand when it comes down to those numbers, and if those numbers don't add up, I feel like Dansby Swanson and his camp is going to take a walk. And because, and I don't blame him, because he wants to get his money. And then if Dansby Swanson leaves, you talking about a big hole, not only from over at the shortstop position. I know people saying, okay, Vaughn Grissom going to be able to step in that role. Okay, that's fine. But we're talking about that clubhouse leadership role. That's is what is going to be the biggest part that's going to be missed by Dansby if he's not a part of this team in 2023.
Agreed, because I would venture to say when you heard the reactions from each player when they were asked the question about Dansby, every player seemed to be emotional about the possibility of him not being in that clubhouse next season. So that tells you what kind of impact. And it's so interesting because, of course, before this year, all of our attention was on Freddie and the impact that Freddie had on the clubhouse, not realizing that Dansby Swanson was also building up that capital with that team. And so I hope that we get to see him in a Braves uniform next year, because I do think that continuity will be key for some of those younger players. But again, granted, he's a couple years younger than Freddie, right? So let's just start right there in terms of the negotiation, because giving a 32-year-old a 6-year contract versus giving a 29, 28-year-old a 6-year contract, that is night and day when it comes to sports.
Indeed. So that's a big gap.
Right. So we'll see if the Braves will kind of bend in the direction of the 6th year, because that was what was the breaking point for Freddie, more so than even the money. We'll kind of see what it looks like for Dansby. I hope that he returns to the Braves, because I think that'll be a good look for them, because from there, I mean, Jarvis, who else do you have? I mean, Ozzie is more of like the heartbeat type of a leader, but I don't think maybe the vocal leader, if you will. I believe you just need Dansby Swanson, like I've said before, like you've said before, and even like Brian Snicker said, it's about more than at bats when it comes to Dansby.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then him being from the area too, that kind of, I think it's just so many factors that you're like, okay, he has to stick around. You have to get him signed. But I just feel it's just I have a gut feeling, and I just feel in my soul, that the Braves gonna have to figure out a backup plan. And I'm sure Alex Anthopoulos has been known to do that. So I'm not too concerned with that. But like you said, that clubhouse piece it's a big one. It's a big one, and it's gonna be a big hole to fill if he's not around in 2023.
And even fan base too, because like you said, not only for him being a homegrown player, but in addition to that, fans get that can be sports PTSD all over again. They're like, first of all, you're not going to the World Series, and we lost Freddie Freeman. I mean, thank God the Dodgers aren't going. No offense, but that probably it makes it a little bit easier for them.
Just a little bit, Just a little bit,
But Jarvis, I think it's a tall order asking Braves country to lose Dansby when you lost Freddie and you have essentially ended your World Series run for the back-to-back title way too soon.
No doubt about it. Speaking of titles, the Atlanta Hawks, they are trying to get a title this year, and I think that they open up against the Houston Rockets at State Farm Arena 2 days from now, Wednesday night. I will be there, you know what I'm saying? And if, I don't know, if you're going to be able to make it down there, but, we would love to have for you to grace us with your presence down at State Farm Arena. But here's a quick question I want to ask you before we get out of here. Is it a maker? Is there anybody on this team, whether it be player, coach, that is a make or break season for?
Well, of course, I would go coach first because this is a situation where we saw Lloyd Pierce go to Miami as a head coach, come back from Miami, not a head coach. So we know that Travis Schlenk, and by default extension of him, Landry Fields, will not be afraid if for some reason it goes awry. Personally, I don't think that it will, barring major injuries. Now, that said, I still think that it's a make or break situation for John Collins. I still think it's more of an X factor for him, with maybe an honorable mention to DeAndre Hunter. That would be my 1-2 punch in terms of this is a make or break, show and prove type year, because, okay, real talk, we've all been waiting for Dre Day to come and stay. So we need to see that continuity. And I think we started kind of seeing it in the preseason and throughout training camp. But I think with John Collins, it could go one of two ways, Jarvis. It could be make or break so that he is still viable as a trade piece for the Hawks, or it could be make or break for JC because the Hawks want to say, okay, finally, we see where his space is, we see where his role is, and we want to go ahead and keep him. We're going to take him off the trade block because he has shown that he has to be a part of the winning formula, especially, Jarvis, if they intend to get into that top quarter, that 1 to 4 spot in the postseason.
Yeah, and I kind of add a little quick little burb to that because I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that this is one for Nate McMillan, too. You talk about, giving up all the draft capital that you gave up for DeJounte Murray and coming into, the harboring of the relationship between he and Trae Young. People had some conversations about it. You talked about how he's reached out before, people start, questioning it. And this year he went out to Oklahoma City and kicked it with him, and they kind of talked about the season and everything. So I think that Nate McMillan understands the assignment this year, and they have to get out of the bottom part of that Eastern Conference, because the way this roster is currently constructed, it is not a play-in around tournament. It's not an 8th seed. It's not a 7th seed. It's a 6 or better team. It has to be this year for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, if you're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be, what the record's going to be for that playoff seeding that I just talked about, go to betonline.net, because it is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs, find out your favorite sports events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. I know me, I'm trying to figure out what the over-under is for the Atlanta Hawks. How many games are they going to win? Are they is Vegas trying to play around with you? Or are they trying to set the over-under too low so they can bait you in, because they know that the Hawks aren't going to be as good as we think they are going to be? Go to betonline.net, because it is the top online source for all your sports wagering information, live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. You listen to us to check us out on the podcast. Go check them out on the podcast as well. And last but not least, did you put some money on that 5.5 point spread that the Falcons covered again and actually won outright? Just in case you didn't know, 28-14. So yeah, we were sitting up here talking about this game and letting you know the Falcons were undefeated against the spread, and they're still the only team in the NFL that is the case. So if you're trying to figure out all this information, like all this stuff, man, I could have made me some money, Jarvis, go to betonline.net, because it is where the game starts.
So Jarvis, 3 years ago, almost to the day, at this very point in the NFL season, Marcus Mariota's days as the starter under center QB1 for the Titans, done and done. Now, he was given a second chance, however. ATL Day Ones is all about a second chance, obviously. Yeah. So is Coach
Fair and balanced on this show.
We certainly are. So Smith gave the reins to Mariota this past training camp and on into the season, right? And finally, Jarvis, I believe Mariota has given these Falcons fans something to cheer about in that 28-14 win. You were talking about Marcus Mariota on the ground and in the air, being responsible for 3 of those Falcons scores. So, Jarvis, do you think that somehow number one has played himself into continuing in that QB space for at least another couple games and maybe push back the Desmond Ridder timeline at least, I don't know, for a week or more, maybe?
I want to say at least for a week, because the one thing that I would at least say at least 1 week, because the one thing that I've always found funny and almost comical is the fact that on Mondays I will always see Desmond Ritter's name trending. And I was like, why is this dude's name trending every doggone Monday after a game? It's just like, dude, what is going on? But I did not see, and I just checked. Literally just checked, and it's not trending on this Monday, so that's cool. I think for at least a week, Marcus Mariota proved that, hey, he's the guy for the Falcons, at least in this particular moment, because I think that Arthur Smith has established an identity for this team, and that is running the football running the football, and then we're gonna hit you with a play action to go up top every now and then. So hey, and I'm cool with that.
Run the football.
Right? Oh yeah. If it's nothing there, if my first read isn't there, I'm gonna take off and run with the football. But by the way, T, I'm gonna go ahead and pat myself on the back real quick, because like, you got some people that be trying to hate, trying to question what your acumen and all that stuff. Right. How about this? Marcus Mariota had 51 yards rushing? Did he not have a 17-yard run for a first down in a crucial moment in the game?
That's right.
Yes. I know what I'm talking about, people. When you think about how this game was going, the type of defense that they were playing, the elite level of defense that they faced on Sunday, there are certain things that is hard to defend. When you're talking about having to defend 11 people, I know it's 11 people on the field all the time, but hear me out here. There are 10 people that have that are involved in the play that help the quarterback out, right? But when you add the quarterback into that equation as far as being a weapon, something else that you have to defend on any given play, that makes it really hard, and that gives the Falcons an advantage against a team that is coached by probably a guy who's going to be a head coach and a guy who just has talent all up and down their roster. Now, granted, yes, they did have those injuries. However, you talking about that is an elite level defense that the Falcons were able to defeat on Sunday, and I think people should understand that and understand that nothing needs to be changed at this moment.
Right. And I also think, Jarvis, all you can do is play with the players on the field. And Marcus Mariota made a great point earlier in the week when he said, hey, I'm just going to take what the defense gives me. And finally, we saw it consistently, because I felt like when I covered the game against the Browns a couple of weeks ago, that home game, I felt like we saw shades of it, pieces here and there, especially in the first half. It seemed like he went away from it in the second half and kind of fell back into some of his bad habits, if you will. But I felt like yesterday, he literally, for the entire game, was consistent. Like you said, there was a moment where when he took off, I just smiled, because for me, it wasn't even about whether he would get 5, 10, or 17 yards. It was about the decision making, because if we're real about it, the thing that we've questioned even more so than his arm is his decision making. We've questioned, especially in high leverage situations. And yesterday, he definitely found that kind of second gear of thought process, right? That could tell him, hey, this is an opportunity for me to take off. Or even if I bootleg around to score a touchdown, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that you could see the determination. Like, okay, I read this real quick and this defense fell for this, so I'm going to go right on in. Those are the little things that you need to see, to your point, to be able to continue having the conversation about Mariota and not see Ridder trending. Same thing made me think of this. I was like, you know what? The other piece is, whether it's Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, or whoever else did not show up, my thing is, at the end of the day, the whole squad for me, for the Falcons, showed up and said, whatever you all give us, that's what we're going to take, and we're going to run with that, and we're going to do the most with it. That's what made me appreciate the entire effort across the team. But for me, even looking from an offensive perspective, I was like, besides Marcus Mariota, since we've given him his flowers, I felt like, okay, well, then who else was doing the most with what they were given on offense? Like, okay, I see what you guys are giving me. Who else do you feel like said, I'm going to do the darn thing.
Olamide Zaccheaus, sir, step up. Like, yes, like the way those guys have played this year, and like you said, I understand. Like in the back of their minds, is like, man, I need to get the rock more. But when they're called upon to make plays, those guys are absolutely doing their job. And I also have to give big kudos to Drake London as well, because you just saw something in him. Like Drake has something in him, and Drake. I know like people probably saying that, but you got to look at. That guy has something. It's something special about Drake London, and I think that I didn't see that when they drafted him in this year's draft and coming in, and then. But as I start to kind of be around him and kind of talk to him at practice, and then you start seeing the production on the field, I'm just like, okay, this guy is built differently, and I think that's some of the things that people have to pay attention to. Because and he's been maximizing every opportunity that he's been able to get, whether it be catching a back shoulder fade and snatching the ball with his hands over the DB. Like those are the type of things that he's been showing us, and I think not enough people are talking about it. And then with OZ doing what he's doing, hey, I ain't no first round draft pick, ain't no top 10 pick, but every time Marcus Mariota comes my way, I'm going to catch it, whether it be on that first driving, what it was 29 yards completion over the middle. Yeah, those are some of the things that you ask your wide receivers to do, even though they're not asked to do much in the passing game. But when they are called upon, those guys are absolutely making the most out of it for sure.
They are. Yeah, that I will give you that the receiving corps was doing the most yesterday. And I'm going to give you two quick funnies, and then we'll talk about who was doing the most on defense, although I got a sneaky suspicion we're going to talk about the same person. But on offense, I will give a thumbs up to doing the most to the running back corps, because if you think about it, still – and we take nothing away from Mariota's 51 yards, still 31 carries for 110 yards between Caleb Huntley and Tyler Algier just reminds us that the Falcons running game is in good hands. And that's so, to me, that should be so encouraging and refreshing to Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone, because that means that you can let CP come back when CP's body is ready. You do not have to rush him back, no pun intended, because you've got more than what you need out of those guys really, really showing up and doing the most. But, okay, I'm going to make it funny before we go to defense. KP with the Dirty Bird dance was doing the
yes. Yeah, that was dope. Because
I had to give him love.
So many times, like he just hit that joint. Right. It was like the sped up version.
Exactly. He was like, I got to release this.
Let me go and get like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I absolutely loved it. And the thing about it is, the cool thing about it is for me, because, a lot of times the opposing team comes into, and do it as a mocking, to mock the Dirty Bird. And that's when I just, I'm always rolling my eyes and like, dude, man, that jump happened a long time ago. Jam the Dirty Bird is sitting back, tweeting and chilling and retired, and you still up here trying to do that dance. But to have a guy honor him, and bring it to the forefront and get his first touchdown on the United States soil. Yes. I thought it was just absolutely dope. But yeah, I'm with you. That was a very, very cool moment.
It really, really was. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about who was doing the most on defense, because if you look at the fact that the turnover margin was won by like 3, it was a 3-0 situation, that is so very impressive. And the fact that literally you could go anywhere. So I'm interested to see where you go for you're doing the most, because the defense played that well yesterday.
It has to be Jaylinn Hawkins for me.
Yeah,
because when you think about when you think about how important it was, and Arthur Smith even talked about this in the post-game press conference. He was saying how if Hawkins is not going down there following his teammate, getting trying to find a block, and then all of a sudden, my dude fumbled the ball into the end zone. Let me go pick up this rock, because I was thinking like, oh snap, was it the touchback? But he ended up Hawkins ended up recovering it, because I think the camera kind of switched kind of quickly, and I didn't see that he had actually recovered it. So those are the type of the things that that are huge. And then when the Falcons defense was forcing Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the football over the top, throw the football downfield, you saw what happened. For him to pick that ball off like he did, I was like, this dude is – I love to see young cats doing what they do. Like A.J. Terrell, that was a huge play, don't get me wrong, but I expect that for him. But a guy that's coming up through the system and has worked his way to being a starter, and you see the capability that he has, and it's starting to show on the field, that's the type of stuff that I like. I absolutely love what Jaylinn Hawkins did on yesterday, and he is absolutely doing his thing.
Yeah, I have a nickname for him. I'm going to hashtag it Ball Hawkins.
Right.
He's doing some special things. He is doing some special things.
Yes, yes, he is.
Defense was definitely doing the most, but it did definitely start and stop with not just the secondary, but really Jaylinn Hawkins leading the way. So, love to see it. We're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow. We're going to break down that game further. And again, of course, start to do a look forward as well for the Panthers. But listen, if you want to look forward to what's going on, or you want to know exactly what key predictions are in and around the NFL, that's when you should listen to Locked On Sports, Locked On NFL specifically. So, of course, we all thank you guys for making us your first listen every single day. But we also want you to check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. And, of course, you can get replays wherever you get your podcasts as well. But we've got experts everywhere. They'll give you the inside scoop. They'll kind of look at the 5 biggest games, which the Falcons are actually starting to creep up into those top 5s. And that can be the Sunday games, the Monday night games. And of course, Jarvis just told you guys about it earlier. Bet online. That's where the game starts. And that's where the betting advice comes from with the field's leading experts that you can check out on Locked On NFL. So again, follow the NFL Key Predictions every single Friday on Locked On NFL. You can get it on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Final segment of ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to just say thank you for rocking with us throughout the entire show. We really appreciate you guys. You guys have been killing it as far as liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. And you've been downloading our podcast wherever you get that bad boy. And y'all been leaving those 5-star reviews. Go ahead and drop a 5-star review in the comment section on this video. Make sure you do that. We appreciate you. We appreciate you for all the love. And but T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. And sometimes whatever we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on this show. Today is no different. T, Joe Simpson has always been a guy to open up his mouth and give his opinion about certain things. And, whether it be the Juan Soto questioning the birth certificate and how old he was, or the Los Angeles Dodgers wearing T-shirts and shorts and pre-warm-ups. And somehow that disrespects the game. And now he's opening it again. And he had something to say about Ronald Acuna, not backing up Michael Harris, which is totally fair. Like, I don't have a problem with somebody saying, you know what, Ronald Acuna probably should make more of an effort to get over there to back up his teammate. Get it. Totally get it. But to describe it by saying horrible play, call the man lazy.
Yes.
You can't be that great and be lazy, by the way. A spectator, and that was just an awful play that he had to actually call in the system. It just seems like maybe if somebody else would have said that to you, I probably wouldn't be taking it a certain way. But when you look at the messenger, and just for those reasons I just mentioned, we already know the racial stereotypes that come with Latin players. How they show offs, they're lazy, they don't want to do anything. It just makes my skin crawl to hear a guy like Joe say that. And I think that this was just get off my lawn moment that I did not want to hear at this time. And I think that we understand it's a reason why Joe is sitting here doing local radio network and not doing TV anymore.
Agreed. And, I think about passive aggressive behavior, and I think about microaggressions. And Joe Simpson is, if you open a dictionary, his name is probably there.
What's the definition?
I mean, call it for what it is. Like you said, there are already enough stereotypes and assumptions made about players of color, especially those players who are of Latin American descent. And there are definitely some moments in time where Ronald Acuna does some things that makes us all scratch our heads. Now, who knows? Brian Sticker may also come out and tell us later that, hey, you all knew Ronnie wasn't 100%. So that may have been a moment where he was thinking MH2, hey, you got MH2. He's
got it, yeah.
Right, because he's MH2. But on the same token, let's just call it for what it is. It's Joe Simpson doing Joe Simpson things. And like you said, finally, sometimes when you do Joe Simpson things, you get to go where Joe Simpson has gone.
No doubt about it. And we'll just leave it at that. Now, T, this weekend was special for the both of us. I'll go ahead and start because, my wife and I, today, we celebrated 10 years of wedded bliss. You know what I'm saying? I call it 10 years of self-reflecting. But, you need to be better, boy. What's wrong with you? Like, no, that's not how my wife sounds, y'all. For those who got
really
worried and
does.
concerned, she
Don't
doesn't
do
sound
that
like
to
that.
her.
She's the best. She's the absolute best. Anyway, she's real cool. So, but yeah, we actually flew up to Chicago and got a chance to chill up there, and it was chilly. That's for sure. I was just like, I was going over there to expecting Atlanta fall type weather. Oh my goodness!
It's like an winter.
Yes. I was like, oh, why is it so cold up here? And this wind, my goodness, why is this cutting through my skin? Like, how did I get a hole in my skin all of a sudden? Because I literally just got cold. So Friday night when we got up there, we went to a restaurant, and we wanted to basically take an Uber, but it was taking too long. And then we saw a guy who had like one of the little carriage things, right? Yeah. So we were like, oh, yeah, let's get on this thing. We cool. I got my sweater on and everything. I'm cool. Man, was that a mistake? It was so cold. Goodness gracious. But yes, but all in all, it was definitely fun. It was cool getting a chance to celebrate with the wife. And I know you had some experiences in Chicago, but T, it was real cool. That was my first time actually being in the city. I've flown through there before, but it was cool to be able to be up there and celebrate. It was cool. Good deal.
Oh, yes. And congratulations to one of my favorite couples on making it to 10 years. That is a blessing. Please do not understate that. That is a beautiful thing.
Appreciate
but yeah,
that.
Chicago is crazy. I mean, I can remember standing at a bus stop with 4 layers on, feeling like I had a bikini on, like for real.
Right.
Yeah. And just
like,
trying to cry tears, but the tears were freezing. So there's that. So yeah, but it's a beautiful place, and I see why they call it the 100 Days of Summer, because on day 101, it's really over for them. But what is never over in HBCU land, at least in the fall, is homecoming.
Homecoming season.
There's a homecoming somewhere, everywhere being celebrated.
Down. This month of October, yes.
Month of October, and a little bit of November for those of us who don't have football teams like my school. So we'll be talking about this in November. But yeah, Clark Atlanta had homecoming this weekend, and man, as my best friend said, he was here from some other place, but as he says, Atlanta owes him nothing. The journey around homecoming from Friday to Saturday, Sunday, it's just a family affair. And you don't have to go to the school for you to feel like family. I mean, I pulled up, of course, it was my Soars now, we'll say that, but I pulled up to that tent, and love for my sorors.
Sorry.
That's the way it's pronounced, people. That's the way
I can't help myself. I'm a 12-year-old child. Sorry.
12-year-old. 8th grade Jarvis. Oh, 8th grade Jarvis. Yes, it was amazing. Shout out to the Pearl Bearing Sigma chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, because they really set it out, and also loved and enjoyed spending some time with our brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Beta Psi chapter. They were awesome. It was just good to be out there, because the pandemic has taken away so many of those events, so many of those opportunities.
Indeed.
So yeah, man, I just had a blast. And also, I gotta say, and you guys will have to check it out online. So you go to @Tenitra Batiste on Instagram, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about sometime in the next few days. But finally, I started unraveling the mystery of New Jersey for Jarvis right at homecoming. So if you want to check that out and know more what I'm talking about, you go follow them. Follow me on IG @Tenitra Batiste, and of course follow my boy @JarvisD90 to find out more about his amazing trip to Chicago to celebrate his anniversary, and anything you want to know about Locked On Sports Atlanta, whether it is ATL Day Ones, whether it is Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, because we know he has thoughts about the end of the baseball season.
Yes,
check us out. Keep it going, because you guys have us over 4,500 subscribers on YouTube. You guys are checking us out on Amazon Fire and Roku, and you are still downloading us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll come back tomorrow, and we're going to talk more Falcons, because there's a lot of good to dig into this thing. We're going to also preview some things for you with Hawks, and anything else that comes across the sports landscape here in Atlanta. We got you. Have a good afternoon, and go vote.
Yeah, I'll come back now, you hear?